Awesome.
Hello everyone, welcome to East 1 and 2 Chronicles Plus. This is going to be a race between myself, Korzic, and Freedom Pulse.
Yes. Hello everyone, I am Freedom Pulse, and like Korzic said, this is East 1 and 2 Chronicles Plus. It's a remake slash port of the original East, which came out in about 1987-88. And it is an awesome remake, enhanced graphics, enhanced music. We'll be running multiple soundtracks, so if we have an audio switch, that'll be it. But we will explain more about the game once we get started, so that'll be once we select our difficulty setting. So I will give us a countdown if we are good to go. So that will be in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
So if you guys are unfamiliar with the East series, it has been around for quite some time. It was initially released in 1987, 1988 for the PC 88, I believe.
Yes.
And since then, it's released along a number of systems throughout the years. This one is the most modern. You can find this on Steam, on GOG, or any digital download service.
Yeah, and for the most part, it's all graphical inclusion, or all graphical improvements. There was a version of this game that came out in the early 2000s called East 2, or East Eternal, that is basically kind of the engine that all of the subsequent remakes are based off of. And yes, this is the PC version, like we said. There's a DS version. It is a lot different from this. It includes like features like having an attack button, which sounds really silly if you don't know anything about this game. Along with an extra dungeon and removing the ability to do a sequence break that I'll be doing in the run. So it's important to note we will be doing two fairly different routes through the early game, just to kind of show off some of the options that you have while running this game. I'll be running what is kind of the more popular route, which is going to be what's called Level 2 Genocris and then Early Mines, which we'll get into what that is later, and Korzic will be running what is kind of the sort of casually intended route through the game, but they end up being about the same speed anyway. Just one route is a little bit faster, a little bit easier, and is the more popular of the two.
Yeah, I'll be doing the more dangerous of the two routes, which normally I would not do, especially for a marathon setting, but because Freedom Pulse has taken the easier route, I kind of want to show off the more difficult one.
Throwing me under the bus, thanks. So the first little trick you'll see, both on my end, on Korzic's end, is what is called Field Clip, right there. It involves some interesting quirks with how this game actually transfers or interprets Adol's position whenever he changes screen transitions. And it allows us to just kind of clip out of the bounds of the area and kind of skip basically a couple of seconds of running, just running around to get this item, the gold vase, which we'll be using because we really need money right now, and the gold vase sells for a lot of money that we can then use. Because in order to progress with the story, we have to purchase a full set of armor and a weapon, and we don't have those right now, so we're going to be getting them.
And the clip only works because of how the planes function. Normally, when you transition to a new screen, the game automatically puts you in one specific position, no matter where you make the transition from. But on the planes, it does actually carry over your position from screen to screen, and what that means is that you can transition to the next screen slightly out of bounds.
Yeah, and it looks kind of weird. Like, we both got it fairly quickly. However, if it takes you a while to get the setup, it looks super random because it basically looks like you're just running at a corner for a few seconds. There is actually a pretty consistent setup with how we do it. Shoutouts to the Baronade, who is a runner of this game, who basically figured out a lot of the setups for how to do some of the tricks in this game. So this is the NPC that wanted us to have the equipment. She tells us about basically this legend of these books called the Books of Ys, that basically the legend is when monsters and bad things start happening, that a hero will show up, will read all 6 books, and that will lead to the world being saved. So we agree to find these books and take care of it. So she tells us to head and talk to her grandmother, Java, who is in this village that is up here, who will be giving us the key to enter into the first dungeon of the game, where one of the books is located.
Yeah, and this is where our first route diversion kind of happens. Or it already happened, I guess, but what Freedom Pulse did was he did a second side quest. He bought and returned a ring for some extra, not only extra money, but it also gave him some extra EXP, so he will be doing the boss at level 1, or at level 2, I'm sorry, whereas I'll be doing it at level 1.
Yes, and the only difference that makes is, in general, we're both going to be doing the fight under-leveled. The only difference is it means I'm going to have the ability to take a lot more hits on the boss than Korzic will, at the cost of a couple of seconds. So I see a question in chat asking about why we have different portrait art. So this version of the game, being the newest one, includes a couple features of the past games. Thank you for the good luck, Tux. That involve allowing us to use some... Words are difficult right now. Basically, we can choose the artwork that we want to use for the game between the complete artwork, which was kind of an older version of the game, and the Chronicles artwork, which, again, is the newer version. Again, it's purely cosmetic. There's no difference in gameplay or anything. Korzic just happens to like the complete artwork and music a lot more, whereas I like the Chronicles artwork and music. Hence what I mentioned when, if you switch, because you have the option to use the original soundtrack, the TurboGrafx soundtrack, the complete soundtrack, or the Chronicles soundtrack. Just, again, it's a matter of preference, really. There's literally no difference. So this right here that we're fighting is Genokris. He is basically the scariest part of this run, because, again, both of us are fighting this boss severely underleveled, and it's kind of a moment of more serious time. Oops, especially when that happens.
There is something you can... Oh boy. A strategy you can do to do this boss properly leveled, which at the earliest you would want to be level 4 with the second level sword. However, that involves a side quest, which unfortunately takes about a minute and a half too long compared to just doing the fight underleveled, so even though it is very difficult, it does save us time.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that I can... Whoops, like I just died on this fight. It's a pretty scary part, but overall it's fine. There's plenty of things in this race that can kind of change things up. Thank you so much for the follow. My brain just died. Sorry. Something to note is if one of us was doing the level 4 route and one of us was doing the level 2/1 route, is that the level 2 route is so much faster that even if I were to die twice and have one of the deaths be fairly quick, it would break even with doing level 4. That's how much of a difference it makes. However, by no means are you required to do level 4 to get it, or level 2 to get a good time. I was able to get like a 43 minutes, which is a quite good time in this game using the level 4 route. But it is faster to do level 2, and I'm just used to doing it by this point that I'd have to like rewrite my muscle memory to do level 4 strats at this point.
Okay, so right there I saved that girl, Fina. When you save her, you get EXP reward, 500 EXP, and it is possible to get that reward more than once. And the way you do that is you rapidly mash confirm, cancel, and that will give you the reward up to 3 to 4 times. Mostly, I can only get it 2 times. Some runners, like Tuxdev, can actually pull it off 3 times, but yeah, it basically depends on how fast you mash the inputs.
Yeah, Tuxdev is the only person I know that can consistently get 3 on Fina. Because I've gotten 3 once, and it was funny because it was actually in a race where Tuxdev didn't get 3. But other than that, usually you go for 2, because that's 1,000 experience, which is still a lot. I am doing wonderfully on this boss fight right now.
I actually got him first try.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah, he's a very tough boss to defeat underleveled, so being able to do that, oh boy, first try at level 1 is not at all as easy as I may have made it look.
Yeah, it's definitely not rare to have times where you're grinding this game where you just literally spend like 30 minutes to an hour resetting on Genokris. That's not going to happen because, of course, this is a marathon and I'm going to beat this boss this try. I guarantee it. But it is something that happens, and again, it's not the end of the world. We gave a very, very generous estimate for both games, to the point that this will easily be sub-estimate, especially for one.
Rhythm Song, no, Fina did not get that kill. There is something you can do if you have a mirror. What the mirror does is it freezes enemies. It allows you to attack enemies off-center, and Fina can kill enemies if they are frozen, but no, she did not get the kill. Speaking of attacking enemies off-center, we should kind of explain the
See,
battle
I told you
system.
I was going to get it that time.
So this game has a rather unique battle system in that you need to attack enemies either off-center, from the sides, or from the back. If you try to attack them face first, you will still damage them, but you will also take damage yourself.
Basically, this game is a very strategic round of bumper cars. Is really the best way to describe this to someone who has not played this game before. Of course, it's probably a lot more strategic than your casual game of bumper cars would be, but...
Oh, shoot. Did not save for a while. That was an unexpected death.
Oh, where'd you end up?
Right by the treasure box key.
Oh, then I think, unless you saved after getting Fina, then I think we might be back to being synced up.
No, I did actually save after getting Fina.
Okay, cool. Well, that's fine.
So that is another route divergence. Freedom Pulse, he gets the treasure box key early because that will enable him to do the mines early, get some really powerful equipment. But I am electing to do the rest of the shrine before stepping into the mines, and what that means is he can kill the enemies when he comes to finish this place, whereas I have to avoid everything.
Yeah, so again, once I get out of this mine, I will out of the shrine, I'll just be leaving immediately and be doing some other stuff. The routes are actually similar in time, despite what you might think one way or the other. It's just this route is a lot safer, and it's the route that pretty much everyone that runs the game does, because having the equipment that I'm going to go get for this part of the mines is just a lot safer.
Yeah, and the equipment he's getting, you do need to get it eventually, and you have to make 2 trips to the mine no matter what, so even though he's getting it early, it is not necessarily a time loss to do it right now.
Yeah.
Basically, the main advantage of that, in addition to just making the shrine a whole lot safer, is that he will be receiving some EXP that I will miss out on.
Yeah, and
not a whole lot.
As a result of that, I'll be able to kill the boss that Korzic's getting to pretty soon. Nictoger, I'll be able to kill him in 4 hits, whereas it'll take about 50 for Korzic to kill him.
Right. And this boss is what we in the community like to call Mr. Free, because most of us, myself included, do get this silver sword early. However, as Freedom Pulse just said, doing this boss underleveled, 50 hits. Sounds like a lot, it kinda is, but it's not so bad as long as you stay away from his head.
Yeah, shoutouts to TuxDev in chat for why this boss is called Free. Because it is possible for you to get stun locked by the boss and get put in a corner and literally be able to do nothing but watch him kill you. And if you do happen to get the equipment and you fight the boss at level 7, which is the level that you end up fighting the boss at if you do this route, you will take 1 damage per hit from this boss, and you will have about 100 something HP, so you basically have to just watch your health bar go all the way down.
Yep, it's a very unfortunate way to die.
Sorry, Tux, I'm grabbing the potion. You're welcome. So I'm going to be saving a lot going through this area. Again, this is a sequence break. The game intends you to be a much higher level when you're going through here and to have more than just the level 1 shield and armor. So enemies in this area can kill you in like 3 or 4 hits. It's, and invincibility frames aren't really a thing in this game. Like, they exist, but they're, like, you get like maybe 4 or 5 frames per hit. So it's very, very wise, especially learning, or if you're doing a setting like this, to save very, very frequently running through here. Especially because you noticed I can only see a very, very small amount of the screen. And as a result, it's possible for enemies to just sneak up on me and murder me horribly.
If you go to the mines when you're supposed to, like I am, the enemies do slightly less damage. It's not as scary, but you still definitely need to watch yourself because the enemies here hurt like a truck.
Yeah, in general, both trips we make to this mine are, I'm gonna die. This is what I was talking about. These eyeball enemies are actually terrifying. Because one kind of issue with the bump system is that, again, you have to hit enemies off of their center mass. And if you're in a 1-tile wide hallway, you kind of can't do that. So you just die like that. Luckily, I had saved like right before that. So now that went to the mines, I had to pick up a couple of items, one of which was a rotoseed, which I promptly ate. That will allow us to talk to trees. How'd I get to the mines early again? I literally just walked in. There is nothing stopping you from going into the mines immediately. So I just straight up walked into the mines. Here we meet this girl named Drea, and we give the second item we picked up in the mines, the silver harmonica, to her. She happened to be missing a magical harmonica and we happened to find it in a demon-infested mine. It's probably a coincidence. She also looks exactly like Fina, which is also probably a coincidence.
And they both have blue hair. Probably a coincidence.
So now that I have picked up the silver armor, which is the second best armor in the game, again, anything with the name silver in the title is required to access the last dungeon. I will be going and I'll be picking up the silver sword, which is the second best weapon in the game. And I'll be doing the field clip again, got it first try, nice. And I have to go, the reason I had to be able to talk to trees is because this tree over here is actually hiding the silver sword, and so we have to talk to it and tell it to give us the sword. So yeah, there's the silver sword. So now because of this, oops, I need to split. The mines are going to be a lot easier or the shrine is going to be a lot easier for me. Too many things have the ending "ein" right now for my brain to process, I guess.
Yeah, so technically you can get through the mines without the silver equipment. However, in order to access the game's final dungeon, a certain NPC will stop you if you don't have all the silver stuff, so in addition to making the mines more survivable, it's just a good idea to have them on you.
Yeah, for sure. So here we're talking to Fina, seeing how she's doing. Turns out she doesn't remember anything about who she is or why she was locked up in a cell in an ancient shrine. So, we weren't just randomly talking to her to be nice. There is a flag that we have to set. Basically, over the course of the game, in order to access the final dungeon, there's a series of flags that we have to set that involve talking to Jaba and Fina a bunch. And the first one is after you rescue Fina, going into town and making sure she's alright.
And because this is a speed run, we kind of do all that stuff as late as possible, so once we finish the mines here, we'll have to refresh that village because the events are queued up.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't steal it, the tree gave it to us. I just skipped the cutscene where the tree gave it to us, so it looks a little bit more suspect. So yeah, I'll be just retracing a lot of Korzic's steps here. However, you'll notice I kind of can just run headfirst into things, literally and figuratively, whereas he had to kind of take his time a little bit while going through here.
So for the second trip in the mines, you do unfortunately need to grind for the boss. You need to actually hit max level, which in this game is level 10, a little over 50,000 EXP, which sounds like a lot, but these enemies give about 450, 480 EXP, and we're coming up to a pretty good grind spot in just a few seconds here.
East Origin was run previously in this marathon. I believe the VOD is up currently, so if you want, you can watch this after the marathon is over.
So what you want to do to make this grind easier is get right against that wall or this one, and then move straight up or down, and that refreshes the enemies. Sometimes they can be jerks and decide to run off, and what that means is that you'll need to chase them down before they'll respawn properly, but this gets us the necessary EXP we need in just a couple minutes. The other alternative is to do the boss underleveled, and at a minimum he takes about 11 minutes underleveled, so that's not gonna fly.
I mean, if we want to mix things up, Korzic can try doing that, and I'll be in the shrine, or I'll be in the tower by the time he is done.
Tempting, but I think I'll pass. I mean, I can do it. It's not that difficult, but come on, this is a speedrun.
It's already the most infuriating boss in the game anyway, so Also, it's worth noting that you talk to NPCs by walking into them, which gets really frustrating when NPCs decide to stand like in doorways or something, and you're forced to talk to them and then try to push them out of the way without talking to them again. The biggest example is that boy that I just walked past. His name is Johan, and it should say a lot already just based on the fact that I know what the NPC's name is, how much he ends up wasting time.
Yep, everyone in the community is very familiar with that kid, as well as a couple of other NPCs.
That little girl I just dodged name is Luca, for example. She likes standing in the doorway of the town, like in the gate where you can't see her. There's also the bald old man that patrols the way to go to the shrine, whose name is Corvo.
Okay, that should be close enough on EXP. I'll just get my last kill from one of these knights here.
Great, so I'm about as much behind
There
as
we
I
go.
figured I'd be with 3 deaths to Genocris.
So, this is Vagulian. If you've played this game, you know how much of a RNG nightmare he can be. The reason for this is because you want him to appear as quickly as possible. However, like he just did there, he can clump together, pretend like he's going to appear, but not actually do it. Yeah, and it sucks because he can do that 2 times before finally appearing the 3rd time, every single appearance. So he can eat up a lot of time in a speedrun, and as far as we know, there is no way to manipulate him.
Yeah, there is no way for a human to be able to manipulate Vagulian, and every time he does that like little spinny thing, like Korzic mentioned, that we lovingly in the community refer to as a troll cycle, it wastes about 7-ish seconds every time he does, so lots of time can be lost. It gets to the point where you can have a PB decided by whether or not Vagulian likes you that day. Spoilers, most of the time he does not like you.
Indeed. That said, that was not actually a terrible fight. It was pretty decent.
Gonna put a save here, because as consistent as this grind is, sometimes the enemies can just sneak in hits on you anyway, even if you are hitting them off the center of their hitbox, and so it's nice to throw in a save. One thing that's really handy about this game for a marathon setting is that you're able to save literally wherever, as long as you're not in a boss fight.
Yeah, and that's something with the East series in general. They certain games in the series do have traditional save points, but a lot of them just allow you to save anywhere, which is really, really handy.
Okay, so I'm level 9, so I'm almost... so I just have a couple more enemies. One frustrating thing about this grind is the enemy movement in this game is kind of random to a point. Basically, enemies have a set spawn point that they always will show up at once they are dead and off-screen, and that spawn point's off-screen. They will then, once they spawn, they will start to move randomly until they were within range of Adol, in which case they will basically aggro onto him. The issue is that if, for example, the top enemy here, I run down here and the top enemy decides to just wander all the way to the left, then that can waste a couple seconds every single pass. Like, just right there.
Alright, so right here I am just getting the story triggers in place so I can make it to the final dungeon. This is unfortunately something you have to do. Like I said earlier, because we skipped most of the stuff earlier, that's something the game that expects you to do periodically throughout the run. But being a speedrun, we obviously have more important places to be. So that does unfortunately mean that when you do finally go back to Zepic, you have to do all that stuff at once, usually.
Yeah, luckily it's only like 1 or 2 back and forth visits there, so it's not too big of a deal. I guess it's a little bit more for Korzic since he did the mines a little bit later, but overall it's not too bad. Again, it's only 2 or 3 trips each. Oh, hey, I got a knight. Sometimes you get a wandering enemy to come in and help out with getting experience faster. So that's level 10 for me, so now I'm going to head in and I'm going to murder Vagulian. Hopefully he gives me a nice cycle, because he gives me nice cycles when I'm super behind. Knocks on wood. Alright, let's go, Vagulian.
So here in Darm Tower, the game's final dungeon, these balcony screens that I'm walking on right now, you can either go right or left, either direction on those screens, and you will still get to the next screen no matter which direction you take. But I did find that there is actually a slightly faster direction on each screen that saves half a second each time. As far as we know, there's no indication as to which direction is the optimal one. You just kind of have to know which one it is beforehand. It's a real weird way to save or lose time.
I take back what I said. Vagulian's a bully.
Well, that's marathon luck for you.
Yeah, right.
So, right here, we need to get caught in this cell trap. And the reason we need to do this is so we can get an item to get past it. Kinda meta, I know, but as far as we know, there's no way to circumvent this, as much as I wish there was, because it involves talking to a really, really chatty NPC. Normally I play the Japanese version of this game, and one of the reasons for that is because in general Japanese text displays faster than English text, and that is nowhere more apparent than the NPC I'll be speaking with just a couple screens from now.
Yeah, the NPC's name is Raba, and it just so happens that if you say the word Raba repeatedly, then it sounds like you're just kind of talking a lot and flapping your jaw for no reason, which is very, very appropriate for the
this
character.
guy right here. Yeah, so to put things in perspective, compared the English version compared to the Japanese version loses roughly 5 seconds just from this conversation alone. He talks that much.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous how many text boxes that one NPC has. It's pretty much, it's more than literally any other dialogue in the game, like, combined.
Still, though, he's got nothing on Trail's characters.
Okay, so I talked to Fina, talked to Jaba, and I will be good to go into the tower.
The reason we talk to Raba is so he gives us the blue necklace to bypass the cell trap. It is worth noting, though, that if you do not have the blue necklace actually equipped, it will still send you back to the trap again. Even if it's in your inventory, if it's not equipped, it's not going to do you any good.
Yeah, and if you get warped back, you have to either load a save or wait for Doki to break a wall again and let you out. Wait, why am I in the shrine? Not sure what my brain was doing there, but that's fun. Just in case you wanted to see the shrine again, for all of you shrine lovers out there, there you go. That was for you. It's for the fans.
Hey, I've done that before too. It's a very frustrating mistake to make.
Dogi gets to crush like 3 or 4 walls if you mess up enough.
Yeah, if you played other games in the series, that's the kind of his shtick. He breaks down walls with his bare hands.
Yeah, the Kool-Aid Man would be very proud.
Indeed.
Alright, so... considering I went into the shrine, that actually wasn't that bad. Alright, and if the audio is still on my stream, you get the my favorite song in the entire series, Tower of the Shadow of Death. I believe it was the song that was playing during intermission as well. Okay, I believe I grabbed the potion. Yes, I did. I have a mirror? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I had to prove that I beat the first boss. This run is valid. There was no cheating involved.
First boss is a true final boss of this game.
Seriously.
So, one other thing the cell trap does is it takes away all of your silver equipment because the person that set the trap is afraid of the silver equipment because it's the only thing that can actually damage him. So he takes it away and hides it from you.
Yeah.
Meaning we have to recollect it.
Yeah. If you talk to NPCs throughout the game, they mention that Dark Fact, who is the name of the final boss, yes, Dark Fact, as opposed to Light Opinion, he is wearing like a cloak that protects him from anything that's not made of silver. So he's actually been going around stealing literally everything made of silver from the villagers. Truly the most heinous of all of his actions. Including the silver equipment, because, heaven forbid, we get to kill the final boss. But it's okay, because he literally hides all the silver equipment along the path.
Yeah, he could just have easily, put it beyond the cell trap and... Well, that is kind of what he did. What am I talking about?
Also, Dark Fact has a different name in Japanese, but we're not allowed to say what it is, so...
Just use your imagination for how the Japanese might unknowingly pronounce that.
Right? How are people supposed to go to dinner parties without silverware?
Yeah, Conscard, he's a very weird boss. You literally either just run up and down, or the intended strategy is to run in circles around him.
Yes, High Spirits, his name is Bob the Evil Dude. You got us.
This floor contains a very powerful shield, even stronger than the silver shield. But I am actually going to be doing the remainder of this tower without armor.
Yeah.
We do still need to recollect our silver sword to beat the last boss, but as far as the silver armor and silver shield go, you can actually just let those stay stolen.
Yeah. You'll see me pick up the Battle Shield, which is the shield that Korzic skipped, just for a little bit of extra safety on the second to last boss. Ideally, I shouldn't need it, but I was doing practice runs of this boss, and I was failing miserably, so I'm going to pick it up because I've already died enough in this run, so I'm going to make a change in that habit. Shield me. Dolomite. I don't know, it's made of battle, whatever battle is.
Yeah, if there's anyone looking to run this game themselves, I would definitely recommend picking up that particular shield because it makes the second to last boss a lot safer. But if you are good enough, then you can do the remainder of bosses without armor, at least on easy difficulty. At this point, we spoke with Rhea, the troubadour, who decided to get herself caught so she could give us a magic monocle to translate the Books of East, because the person that let us into the tower has essentially locked us in here until the next day, and Jeba was the one that was telling us what the Books of East said before, and obviously she can't come into the tower with us, so we need a way to know what the heck they're saying.
Yeah, since the legend did say we have to read the books.
And you may notice that I am backtracking here, and that is because one of the books belongs to Luda Gemma, the guy that was in the cell with us. And he is actually near this corridor where I smashed a pillar. We could not go here before. Well, we could have, but he would not give us the item that we need. He only gives you the item that you need once you translate one of the books at East, and he recognizes that as belonging to his family. And it's a very important item because without it, you cannot access the top of the tower. So technically we're not supposed to know about it just yet, but if you are aware of where it is and how to get it, then the game is gracious enough to let you get it before you are supposed to know about it.
Yeah, I would not recommend waiting until you get to the top of the tower to go back and get the item, because the door that it opens is literally the door to the final boss, and the floors between where Rhea is and the final boss are kind of obnoxious to navigate. So I definitely would recommend picking it up as soon as you get the monocle from Rhea. Both A, because it's faster, and B, because even casually, it's a pain in the butt to do all that backtracking.
Now that we have the item, we can proceed with the rest of the tower. Pretty early into the run, I bought a mirror, which, as I said before, freezes enemies, and that is going to come in very handy for this upcoming floor, because this upcoming floor has a very narrow corridor, just large enough for you to get through, but in a rather jerk move, the developers decided to put enemies in here with you.
Yeah, we lovingly refer to it as Scorpion Alley, and it's literally the reason we pick up the mirror, because without it, it'd be a pain in the butt to get through that hallway, and we would have to pick up the silver armor, basically.
Yeah, without the mirror, which allows you to attack enemies head-on and not get damaged, you would essentially have to brute force your way through, which would require getting the power ring or shield ring and just killing all the enemies, which even that can backfire. The other thing you can do is you can lure the enemies out one by one, but leave them alive so they don't respawn, and that is obviously going to be a waste of time. So you definitely want the mirror.
So there you saw me pick up the battle shield. I'm not going to equip it yet because it's more optimal to do it when I do the menu to use the evil ring that you saw Korzic use earlier. Which is just in a couple of rooms. I'm gonna go around that enemy because I really don't want to have to use my potion like I did when I was practicing this earlier. The songs sound like they're from Bloodstained. Yeah, I can see that. Shoutouts to Bloodstained, which is an amazing video game. Probably my game of the year for 2019.
Alright, so this, I would say, is the second hardest boss in the game. And like I said, you can do this boss without armor if you are skilled enough, but I know I made him look really easy there, but trust me, if you don't know what you're doing that boss without armor is probably going to get you killed.
It's okay, at the rate of how my run is going, I'll probably die to them 2 or 3 times for the memes, so you know.
Okay, that is Dark Fact down. Time is coming up on my end in just a bit. And that's time for me.
GG.
Thank you. Yep, and that concludes East 1.
Yeah, so I will finish up here within the next 2 or 3 minutes. A little longer than that. 3 or 4 minutes, and then we will be able to move on to East 2.
Yeah, so the final boss, like we said before, he's kind of a puzzle where you need the silver sword to defeat him, and not actually the flame sword, which is needed for the boss just before him. So it's kind of tricky your first time through the game. Like, you have the most powerful sword equipped, but it's not doing anything to him. And if you've played this game on Nightmare difficulty, then you know just how painful that boss can be, even with the right setup.
Yeah, even on like normal difficulty, he's a huge step up in difficulty. Since whenever you hit him, he destroys a piece of the floor, and if you happen to be standing in that piece of floor, then you just die instantly. Or if you're not moving properly, he will just trap you in an area where you can't really hit him. Lots of interesting things can happen in that boss fight. Not as much on easy because it doesn't take as many hits to kill him. But
yeah, so he has a mechanic where once you deal damage to him, the spot where you deal damage, he makes the floor disappear, and if you are still standing there, it's an instant death. So even on easy difficulty, you can still die if you're not being careful. But overall, he is a lot easier on easy difficulty compared to any other difficulty.
he is a casual nightmare. When I played through this game casually about a year ago, actually it was almost exactly a year ago, I played through on normal mode, and I definitely was stuck on Dark Fact for probably half an hour at least, including me looking up several YouTube videos of fighting the boss because I was convinced that there was literally no way that the boss could be this stupid. Turns out I was wrong.
Yeah, Dark Fact is one of those bosses that pretty much everyone struggles with on Nightmare difficulty.
And then you get to the final boss of East 2, and it's like a million times easier.
Yeah. Final boss East 2, as you'll He's a bit of a letdown.
Yeah, to the point that if it goes right, both of us will be at full health when we beat the final boss.
That said, Dark Fact is, he is deterministic in the sense that he moves the same way each time. So if you go into that fight with a strategy, even on higher difficulties, 95% of the time, if you know what you're doing, then you should be successful.
Also, right there, I was proving that you can indeed not blow up walls by running into them. Korzic challenged me to do that as we were doing a practice run. I was verifying the statement.
Yeah, if you guys are familiar with East Origin, walls in that game are just kind of a suggestion.
Yeah, turns out in the 700 years between Origin and the first game, they went through and they actually applied plaster to the walls so they're solid objects now. Oops, I messed up the manipulation again. Ah, this is scary. So that's not at all how that room was supposed to go, but it ended up working out, so it's fine. Also, I need to equip the fire sword. That's important. And the potion. Okay, time for Yoglix and Amogan. He has the fun name in the community of Yogurt and Omelet because Yoglix and Amogan is really annoying to say multiple times in a row. And we were really hungry when we thought of that name, so... And there's the special door that we needed before, or that we needed the blue amulet for. And you'll see me do a slightly different fight for Dark Fact. I fight Dark Fact using analog, whereas Korzic plays the entire game on keyboard. So they're similar looking boss fights, just you'll notice my setup's a little bit different. So get ready on time pretty soon. Again, it's after the text box closes, after I read the book. And time.
GG.
That was a 47:05 according to my timer, at least, which is not bad. Not bad at all.
Yep, that's a pretty good time.
Yeah, anything... Again, our estimate was 50 minutes for the first game, and again, that run went quite catastrophically in the beginning, and it ended up working out. Ended up still being 3 minutes under estimate. So
yeah, if it wasn't for those deaths, this would have been a bit of a closer race, I think.
Oh yeah, I forgot that my live split has sounds when I don't PB, so yada yada daza to that run. But yeah, we will now, I guess, get ready to switch over to East 2. Like Shala said earlier, there's going to be a couple minutes for us to kill the game and then switch over.
Yep, so we'll get that set up now.
Yeah, the ending theme is amazing, but just play the game yourself and you get to hear it.
So I'm going to go ahead, swap you over in 3, 2, 1.
Alright, I believe that we are indeed back. So, hello again, everyone. I am still Freedom Pulse.
And I'm Korzic.
And this is East 2, Chronicles Plus. Again, same story as with East 1. And we will get this show on the road if we are ready to go. So I will give us a countdown, and then time will start once we select easy mode. So, we will get started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1... go. Alright, so East 2 starts off literally right after East 1 ends. Basically, after we read the books all became all magical and stuff and made us fly. And we went to this like little floating island place called East. And we can roll credits there. No, but we are...
That's correct, High Spirits.
Estimate.
Sorry.
Yeah, the estimate is 120, correct. But we are in the ancient lost kingdom of East where the books originated from. Turns out there are monsters here as well that are being led by a guy whose name is Dallas, who is sort of the general of all of these monsters slash demon things. And as Adal, being the good hero that we are, we need to go and put a stop to Dallas by basically doing a bunch of random stuff that will lead to us going to his hideout and stopping them.
So a couple things to note about East 2. Number one, we are playing this game as if it were our first time through. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but essentially there is a New Game Plus quote for this game. Once you beat the game and you choose, if you do that, then you will see extra cutscenes every time you replay, and those take up time, about a minute and 40 seconds, and so we deleted a file to kind of trick the game into making it think it's our first time through, just so we can save some time.
Yeah, and it's important that we do that, both A, because it saves a minute and 40 seconds to 2 minutes, also because the one of the cutscenes, that's the longest one, it's a minute-long cutscene, involves the worst character in the entire East series being on screen for a very long amount of time, and we just will not accept that in our wholesome video games, so it's important that we get rid of that cutscene. And you
Another thing to mention is that we are playing both of these runs on the easy difficulty. However, in East 2, easy difficulty actually makes it so that we do not need to attack enemies off-center. We can actually attack them face first and not receive any damage.
Yeah.
So it's different from East 1, but it makes East 2 a bit easier on the whole.
Yeah, which is very important because one thing to note about East 2 is, of course, the estimate is longer, but also the run in general is a lot more volatile than East 1 is. Simply just because one thing you'll notice pretty quickly is that we don't pick up any armor for like the first 2/3 of this game, and as a result, we will kind of die very quickly to most things in this game. So the fact that we don't have to worry about positioning ourselves at all makes that a lot more manageable.
Yeah, essentially the only way enemies can hurt you is you will see them flash sometime. What that means is they're like swinging their claws or a sword, something to damage you, and the only other way they can damage you is if you let them walk right into you, which obviously you don't want to have that happen.
Yeah, another big difference between this game and East 1 is that this game actually has a progressive level up system, whereas East 1 we reached max level by about the halfway point, and then we're there pretty comfortably for the second half of the game. We will be leveling up throughout the game, and we'll eventually finish off the game at about level 50. So that does unfortunately mean that there are a couple of times where we have to grind. However, it's really not that big of a deal, and a lot of the grinding sections are pretty quick. This first section is a very big example of this, where starting off we have to grind to level 4 so that we can go into this first section of a shrine and kill the enemies in there so we can get level 6. Getting level 6 will allow us to get magic, or get an MP bar, which is very important because magic is super good in this game.
Yeah, and while there is a way that you can glitch through the enemies and grab the chest early, we still want to level up for the boss of this area. And the boss is going to require us to be level 12. We could do the boss a level earlier, just that it would take longer. But the other thing we want to do is collect enough gold by the end of the mines so that we can buy the 3rd level sword, which is going to help us for bosses later on down the line.
Yeah, and yes, we do have different artwork. Again, if you weren't here for the explanation at the beginning of East 1, we are playing on 2 different versions, or we are both playing on the same version. However, this version lets you choose the artwork that you want to see displayed. So Korzic is going with the East 1 and 2 complete artwork. I'm going with the East 1 and 2 Chronicles artwork, along with the Chronicles music, whereas Korzic is using the complete music.
Yeah, you can also use the original PC-88 music if you'd like. None of that stuff affects the speed of the run, it's just a nice cosmetic touch.
Yeah, it's all purely cosmetic, aesthetic, etc. But there, you see, I had to be level 6 so I could kill these golem enemies, and then I got magic. And I actually got a sub 6 minute magic, which is actually really good pace for getting magic, so there's that. So now that we're level 6, we can actually go into the mines and begin to... we have a couple objectives in the mine. When we started off the game, we found out that the girl that found us initially is actually very sick and is dying and needs medicine in order to be able to be healed. And the only person that can make the medicine, the doctor, happens to be locked in these mines right now because there was a cave-in. So we have to go and save the doctor so that he can make the medicine. And then we also have to go to all of these sanctuaries and drop off all of the books of Ys with their respective sage so that they can give us some exposition as to what's going on.
And when you think about it, it's kind of funny because the people that requested you to save the doctor, they're essentially asking a complete stranger for help.
Yeah,
mostly based on the fact that we know our way around a sword. That's their main justification.
Well, they haven't even seen us use a sword. They're like, hey, you look like you can use a sword. Here, how about you help it? How about you go into this super dangerous mine that's infested with monsters and save this doctor, because you look like you could use a sword. It's like, great. Sounds like a plan.
So here is the first magic, the fire magic. This is a great alternative to melee attacks, and not only that, we do need it to kill most of the bosses in this game. That said, despite being a different method of attacking, we do unfortunately still need to level up and get stronger weapons because the strength of the fireballs is directly tied into adult strength stat, so we can't neglect to grind.
Yep. It definitely make the game very different if you didn't need to do that, but Falcom's damage formulas in this series is kind of ridiculous, so we definitely need to get levels. Yeah, you look like someone willing to die for us. Go into these mines. Seems legit.
Yeah, I mean, for all they know, Adol could be like an assassin or something like that.
He could be working for Dallas. And so he dropped him out of the sky so that it would look inconspicuous, because obviously the most inconspicuous way to introduce someone to a group of people is to drop them out of the sky.
Okay, so there's the level I need for the first boss. The first boss, people seem to think he's random, but he is not. He will move the same way each time, provided that you also do the same. And what you want to do is wait for him to open up his arms so you can attack his main body. And while you can damage the arm, you don't want to do that because they are on a separate HP bar from his main body, so... Oops.
He has the look of the guy. Oh yeah, this game definitely gives me wrist cramps for sure. Ice burner. Actually, to the point that when I run this game for long periods of time, I actually have to wear compression gloves because mashing in this game murders my hands.
Yeah, I don't have too much of an issue with that playing on keyboard. Still being in the same position for an extended period of time. So these hidden rooms I'm stepping into here, if you know about them, you can step into them early. Normally you are supposed to use the light magic, which kind of gives you a hint that they're even there. And one of them's required. It has the evil bell. The other one has an optional item, the iron one, that we are going to sell for a nice chunk of change to be able to buy that weapon I was talking about earlier. And while we don't necessarily need this weapon right away, obviously the sooner we can get it, the better.
Yeah, we will need it for sure. We would need it for sure by the end of the third area, if not sooner. However, it's just nice to have it now, and also it would waste time to have to backtrack to get it, so...
So I was talking about the light magic just a bit ago and how you don't need it to enter those rooms. You do still need to pick it up, one, in order to progress to the next area, and two, you need it for an item pretty late into the game.
Yeah, the bell has literally one use, or not the bell. The light magic has literally one use, one required use, and yeah, it's over halfway through the game, and so the game really wants to make sure that you pick it up so that you're not, like, you know, running around after the point that you need it, which makes navigation slightly more difficult. But yes, the bell is quite fun. You can ring it around whenever you want to, really, as I will demonstrate.
Yeah, I mean, it's called the Evil Bell because it attracts the sound of monsters. There's an item in East 1 that is said to repel the sound of monsters, so it's just like a polar opposite of that. We'll be putting that bell to use shortly.
Bell has 2 required uses. So close. Whoops, I need to buy the tall war. Yeah. The bell has 1 required use coming up, and then there's 1 in the third area. Also, if you are a certain runner, then you really like to ring the bell whenever you're around Lilia, because there's a certain runner that really hates Lilia.
I have no idea who you're talking about. So at this point, we have returned 5 of the 6 books of East to their respective statues. And where might the last statue be? In this guy's basement, obviously.
Yes, you are required to ring the evil bell to talk to the ruse. That is correct.
Oops, need the evil bell equipped. So down here in the basement, this is the way to the final priest statue, and unfortunately for the person living here, that opens up a pathway that leads to a bunch of demons. Now, we could be a total jerk and just get to the statue, return the book, and leave the enemies be. However, in this version, they made it a side quest where you can actually clear out all the demons. Prior versions, I guess, made the screen infinitely respawn them, but in this version, you get roughly 400 EXP from killing the enemies at this point, and then a fixed 400 EXP for clearing them all out as a quest reward.
And for reference,
So-
800 EXP is a lot at this point in the game.
Yes. So that essentially means that we do not need to grind in the upcoming area, although we still will want to keep on top of our enemies being killed, because we obviously are going to need to grind. But on top of that, we are going to want to save up gold for an even stronger weapon a bit over halfway into the run.
Note that this is one of the scariest parts of the run, this basement grind here, because because like we mentioned earlier, how enemies actually have attacks in this game instead of just charging into you. These attacks actually go through the hitboxes, or through the sprites of their fellow enemies. I'm actually just going to reload that save because I'm already feeling sketchy about it. They go through the hitbox of their fellow enemies, which means that they can hit at all through other enemies. And if they decide to do this, is kind of random, along with what enemies spawn where. So it's possible you can just kind of die during this section without really having any control over the situation. So this section right here, along with the third area, kill more runs of this game than really anything else does.
Yep, and keep in mind this is even on the easy difficulty.
Yes. Because again, we don't have any armor. If we had armor, it'd be a little bit of a different story, but since we don't, it's a little spooky.
Yeah, because the gold route is so tight for purchasing the next weapon, we can't really afford any armor. There's not any laying around in chests until later in the game.
Yeah, we will buy exactly 0 armor, and we will pick up exactly 2 pieces of armor. Okay, so my basement went pretty well, other than the fact that I had to reset once, because I took a bunch of damage early on.
Yeah, mine went pretty well. So here in the Ice Ridge, it's pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot to talk about, but you still can kill the enemies strategically, particularly once we get a certain optional equipment accessory. And what that equipment accessory does is it allows you to home your fireballs to the nearest enemy, which will be very handy for collecting some extra EXP without really deviating from the optimal path through the area.
This was influenced by the original Hide line. That's not a sentence I thought I was going to read today. The enemy. Oh wait, wrong
We'll
RPG.
actually level up off of the icicles. So, fun fact, the icicles actually do give you 1 EXP, or even 2 EXP if you happen to be underleveled. It usually doesn't work out that you level up off of them, but it is possible.
Yeah, it's always
Why?
pretty silly when you're like, hey, I'm breaking icicles. Oh, I leveled up. Nice.
Yeah, you're just shooting an inanimate object. It's weird.
So like we mentioned earlier, we actually really don't do a whole lot of grinding, like where we have to actually stop, at least in this first half of the game. Instead, we have a route where basically we just kill as many of the enemies that we can as we go, and we have a certain milestone that we have to be at by the time we get to the boss. So here in Nulsha, we have to be level 20 by the time we get to the next boss, Tialmith. And then when we get to the next area, we need to be level 26 and have a certain amount of money. Because it's after the next area that we'll be buying the tier 4 sword, which is the item we had to save up for.
I'd say this in good fun, but don't forget to save this time.
Yep. I do have the backup save just in case, but yes, I will remember to save.
Yeah, the boss we're talking about is pretty easy, although if it goes badly, then, well, game over.
Yeah, so as you'll probably see on Korzic's side very shortly, the next boss is basically like an evil demonic version of Frogger. And if the boss jumps on you, then you instantly die. And sometimes when you're trying to kill the boss quickly, you won't move out of the way enough, and you'll die immediately, which is always bad because you don't expect to die to the boss fight, because overall it's a very easy boss. But it happens occasionally.
I would venture to say it's maybe the easiest boss in the game, aside from the first one.
Oh, for sure. I've died to Tialmith less than I've died to Velagander. And neither of those bosses have a particularly high kill count on me. Wasn't the original Frogger demonic and evil? I mean...
Well...
It's a good question. Also, I'm a Roo. They're very cute. They like to hop around adorably.
Yeah, the Roos, most people think they're demons, which will actually come into play in the next area.
Also, shoutouts to the Adol Roo plushie that was given away as a gift at the last RPG Limit Break. That was super adorable. And whoever won that in the drawing is a very lucky individual.
So this is the boss we were talking about. He likes to jump around a lot. Ideally, he won't do that, but there's really nothing you can do to manipulate him, unlike the first boss. So you basically just wait for him to jump, and then when he lands, shoot him at point-blank range. Just need to be careful that he doesn't land on you, because that is pretty much a one-hit kill.
Yeah, I don't think you die like literally the frame he lands on you, but you basically start to take damage immediately as he lands on you, and you get trapped in his hitbox and die. So it's basically instant death. Just a lot more embarrassing.
Like we said for East 1, there's not really such thing as so yeah. The Moat of Burn Blessed is where things start to get pretty dangerous without having any armor.
It's where runs go to die.
Yes. This is where I lose my runs.
Yep, same here.
And that is not only because enemies obviously get stronger the more you progress, but they move faster, so it can be hard to pin them against a wall.
Yes, and there's a couple enemies that are basically positioned as enemies that you're not even really intended to kill. They're really just meant to be roadblocks. You'll see some armadillo enemies on Korzic's side pretty soon that are literally just there to soak up tons of damage. Because there's really no realistic way that you'd ever be able to kill one. At least not until you get, like, way further through.
Okay, so you saw there where I got down to 8 HP. That should not have happened, but that's the kind of stuff that can go wrong in this area. So here I am soliciting help from this bridge guard. He is unwilling to raise the bridge for us. Because
so you know how I said I shouldn't die to Tialmith?
Did you die to him?
Yeah, I did save though, so we're good. I got stun-locked by his ice. Ooh. Which has also never happened before, so there you go, there's the one for the counter.
At least you remembered to save this time.
Yes, I entered the room, I'm like, I shouldn't need it, but I'll save. And then, literally 2 seconds into the fight, I got killed. So, yeah, this is great. Okay, that was a weird Tialmith fight. The item that is allowing the shots to be homing is called the Hawk Idol. We picked it up as we were running through Nulsha. However, one thing to note is that the homing on the Hike Idol isn't amazing. Specifically, the angle that the shots can travel at is kind of sketchy. So you saw there, there were times I was basically standing right next to the boss, and then I was shooting him at almost point-blank range, and then the shot actually went around him and missed. That was because it was trying to home in on him and just not working. Oh, by the way, here are the roos on my end. So once again, we need to be level 26 by the time we beat the next boss, or by the time we get to the next boss.
Yeah, and this screen I'm on right now, we use it to grind a little bit, and it is probably the most dangerous screen in this area, just because those shelled enemies down at the bottom, you can kill them, but they take forever. And what you really want to kill are those green guys, and there are quite a few of them, so you can very easily game over on that screen.
Yeah, it is for sure the most in my opinion, the most terrifying screen in the game.
Fortunately, I have been picking up herbs throughout the course of the run. They only take about a second or so to grab. I would like to save them for a couple bosses late into the run, but since I did take a bit more damage than I had anticipated, there is an extra one you can grab just before the black pearl, and yeah, it's going to hopefully save my butt.
Yeah, what herbs do is they heal 50 HP, which is very handy. Because the max HP you can have in this game is 255, so 50 HP will always be a good amount.
Yeah, you gain HP, well, all your stats, a lot more slowly than in East 1. Because East 1 only has 10 levels, East 2 has 55. And we won't even reach max level in this run.
Yeah. And your HP caps at about level 47 or 48 is when you get 255. And then once you hit like level 55, which is the max, then your HP goes to 256. Because reasons. You won't see that though, because we're going to beat the game at level 50, and then the final boss gives us experience to get us to 52.
So here is Bane of our existence, Tarf. Just like in East 1, yep, this is an escort mission. We need to keep him safe. In addition to the enemies being jerks and getting you in a pincer attack, Tarf, as you may see, is to get hung up on the geometry pretty easily.
Yeah, there's a lot of geometry in Burn Bless. The only reason I know that there's a lot of geometry in Burn Bless is because Tarf at some point has gotten caught on literally all of it.
Yep.
Also, he doesn't like to follow you through screens sometimes. Like Fina, you saw we would transition through screens when she wasn't even when she wasn't even on screen and she would follow us. Tarf, sometimes he'll be right next to you and just decide not to follow you.
Yep.
Which is
there is a visual cue for it, but it's hard to put into words what that is.
Yeah, it's obnoxious. It's one of those things you kind of have to get a feel for, and even then, it's like can be just the game can decide to not let you have a good time.
Will Tarf level up? Yes. If you feed him seven items, you can gift any NPC items in this game called gifts. It can be a flower, it can be a fruit, it can be a wing. If you give Tarf 7 of those, he will hit level 2, and he then gains the ability to chuck rocks at the enemies.
Wow, scariest room in the game was actually really nice to me today.
So you won't see Tarf level up in the speedrun because it's not worth it, but you can get him even stronger than Adel temporarily.
Yeah,
into max level.
And the amount of times that Tarf is on screen is already too much. So we don't want him to be on screen any more than he already is. Which is also why we cut out the cutscenes, because he's in an extra cutscene later on that is in New Game Plus. But we don't have to worry about that because we deleted him. If only we could actually delete Tarf himself.
And some of you may know that you can measure Fina in East 1. Well, Falcom, being the perverts that they are, decided to make it so that you can measure Tarf in East 2. Yeah. Don't ask.
Thanks, Dom. I played Memories of Celceta as my version of East 4. I know Korzic played the... You played both versions of the original one, right? Both Mask of the Sun and Dawn of East?
Yeah.
I have also played Kefin. It was an experience. I played Kefin for like an hour and then decided I didn't want to play Kefin anymore.
So this boss, Galaldi, is the other boss that we can manipulate. He spits out this weird thing that chases you around the room. What you want to do is manipulate it so that the worm is in one and the head is in the opposite corner, because the head will reabsorb the worm, and that
Tarf
will
just
cause
died for me. That's great.
Hope you saved.
I did. Oh, I always save right before Tarf, right before this first room. For that very reason. Yeah, also, sensitive content warning, Galaldi is terrifying, to look at. In East Origin, they made him like a generic-looking golem thing, which is, really nice. I like that design. This one gives people nightmares. I don't know if it ever has given people nightmares, but it's something that I could see, like, being in a nightmare.
Yeah,
and then I'd never
sure.
want to sleep again afterward if I saw him in a nightmare.
Yeah, this boss is very technical. You want him to keep his mouth open as long as possible, so you can basically burn him from the inside out. When he spits the worm thing out, you can actually do damage if you angle your shots properly, which the Hawk Idol really helps for. You don't 100% need it to do that, but it does help you to get some extra hits in.
Okay, and I'm done with Tarf. Once you get to the screen, you can just run ahead. You don't have to worry about escorting him through that area. Celceta was actually the first East game that I ever saw played at last year's Questing for Glory. I saw Kumo do his run of it, and that's actually what got me into the series. Because about a week or so after Questing for Glory last year was Steam's fall sale, where I was able to pick up most of the games on Steam for like under $30.
Are they on sale now?
They were on sale last week for Xseed's 20th, or they had an anniversary, so they had a sale on a lot of the Trails games and East games. They'll probably next week or the week after have a sale for. It's usually around Thanksgiving weekend in the US.
Yeah, I believe they go on sale pretty frequently, so if you guys are what you see, then by all means keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, and East 1 and 2, they come as a package deal, and they're already less than $10 for both games. So it's already like a pretty good deal, to be frank. Casually, I think it took me about 12-ish hours, and that was to beat both, and that was using a guide for East 2. Okay, I almost have enough money. I actually think I do. I definitely have enough money now, so we're good.
Alright, just about ready to go into the shrine. Before we do, the gate guard says we need to get some help because one of his friends broke into the shrine in search of his fiancée, and because of that he is presumed to be dead. So we get an item that is basically Yssa's version of a cell phone. You may recognize the item from Ys Origin if you've played that.
Alright, I need to do this. Forgot to use that item. It's kind of important because it makes this fight faster. You get in the corner, sir.
Okay, screwed that up. What I'm trying to do here, a cutscene skip. Normally there is a scene where you turn into a demon and you show the guards your equipment. You're like, hey, I killed Adel. Equipment is proof. But it turns out that if you turn into a Rue at the very last second, you can actually skip that cutscene. Only downside is that you need to perform the skip each time you enter the shrine through the front door if you want to save any time.
Yeah, because those are actually the hardest enemies in the game. I believe they are the most, like, stat-wise, the most powerful ones. And so they will just kind of destroy you horribly at this point. Okay, I've kind of lost control of this fight a little bit, but it's not too bad. That did not work the way that it was supposed to.
Yeah, so the whole game, the dungeon layout is a bit more maze-like compared to East 1. And that is especially evident in the shrine here, just like multiple buildings, multiple layers on the outside. It can be really confusing to navigate. But essentially, I'm trying to get to a different part of the shrine where the runaways are being held, a group of people that are trying to avoid being sacrificed by the demons. And to do that, I need to spy on the demon's meeting or hear the password. Unfortunately, it's not something you can brute force guess.
Yeah, the option for the password doesn't even appear until you overhear it. And then once you overhear it, it becomes the first option when you give it to the guard.
So once you hear the password, it is faster to warp at that point rather than just backtrack normally.
Oops, turns out you cannot run behind that house, as I just discovered right now. So now I get Cutscene City for a while. And yes, soon you all will have shrine music on stream for a good amount of time.
Yes, a very good track.
Yeah.
Especially the second phase of it.
Oh yeah, Battleground is awesome. Both versions are awesome for their own reason, especially in the Chronicles version. The shrine music is very chill and like adventurous sounding, and then you get Battlefield or Battleground, which is, as it sounds, a lot more kind of sounds high stakes because at that point in the game everything is more high stakes.
So here is the only place where we use the light magic to get that sacred cup. It is literally its only use. Now that we have that, we can go for the run. Unfortunately, Dallas the wizard shows up. You may recognize him from spying on us when we entered the ice ring. He decides he's had enough of our interference, and as punishment turns us into a cute little demon.
Because that's the exact opposite. That's the exact counter to Adol's manliness and prowess, is being helplessly adorable.
Yeah, really, the developers were just lazy. Didn't want make a separate sprite for him. It's just a dark Rue form.
And now you all can hear the amazing shrine music. Yeah, there's a chat about East 1 versus East 2 as far as whatever. As a speedrun, East 1 is definitely a much more beginner-friendly speedrun, and kind of a more enjoyable speedrun in general. They're both great speedruns, and I love running both of them. But East 1 is significantly less soul-crushing. It's also much shorter. My first run of East 1 that I timed was about an hour and 5 minutes. Whereas my first run of East 2 that I timed was about 2 hours and 30 minutes. So definitely huge time difference. And even now with my PBs, my East 1 PB is a 40, like a low 42, and my East 2 PB is a 114. So it's a very big difference in time between the games. And yeah, but East 1 does have the level, the Genocris strats, but if you're going for level 2 Genocris can mean you reset a lot. However, East 2 has Basement and Burn Bloods, so, and both of those are in the first half of the run.
Yeah, East 2 is mostly more difficult just because of the dungeon design. That, and it is longer, but yeah, it's definitely the harder of the two games to learn by far.
Oops, my brain is all over the place. There we go.
Okay, so Dolls decided to show up again, turn everybody to stone. For some reason or another, Dulles is very overconfident. He has multiple chances where he could kill Adel, but he's like, nah, I think I'll just be a good sport and let you live.
Yeah, he's basically a James Bond villain. He doesn't kill you when he has a chance. He really likes to monologue a lot. And he also has cool music, so, you know, basically James Bond villain.
He's just like Goku from Dragon Ball Z. He just wants a good fight. Wants to see you succeed to a point.
Yeah, to a point before he crushes your hopes and dreams with his meteors.
Okay, so right here I am going to grind for the upcoming boss. For the upcoming boss we need to be level 34 or 35. However, I am going to get to level 38 because not only will that to make the next boss go down even quicker, I unfortunately will need to be even higher leveled for the boss right after that. And these enemies just so happen to be the best source of experience up until level 38. You may notice that they have a flame breath attack, and if they manage to get that off, because we are still without armor, that can do quite a bit of damage to you.
Yeah, there's a chance that the Fire Breath, especially because the Fire Breath covers like half of the screen if they get it off, it can straight up just insta-kill you sometimes. It's amazing. It's wonderful. It's what I love to see in my video games. No, Mr. Bog, I expect you to escape after I leave this room and kill me before my evil plan is complete. I haven't seen Goldfinger in a very long time, so I can't do the Auric Goldfinger voice, but
After this, there will only be one more major grinding session, and should be it.
If by light you mean obnoxious, then yes, Hugo can be called white. Because that's kind of Hugo's defining character trait, is that he's obnoxious. Don't worry, you'll hear more of the sewer music shortly. Yeah, pretty much, Iceburner, jerk fact. It is a fact that he is a jerk.
Par for the course for that family.
Pretty much. Dork fact. Also, can we talk about how convenient it is that this guy happens to have a magical shrine in his basement with a well in it that happens to work with the sacred cup that we have to return us back to human form?
Yeah, I mean, it's just very convenient. Like, why else would that be there except for plot?
Yeah, right. Fun fact, you can actually get a full heal if you go there after that point. However, running down those staircases takes forever. Also, Lilia really likes to jump scare you. Because if you're not expecting that and if you're holding down, it's actually mildly terrifying. I have a magical shrine in my pantry, so I thought it was... I mean... My fridge is pretty magical. I open it up and there's food for me. You don't have one too. Apparently I need to go invest in a magical shrine for something. That was the odd one.
So this boss I'm fighting right here, Drugar, for whatever reason, your uncharged fireballs actually do the same amount of damage as your charged fireballs. So it makes the fight go by a lot quicker.
Yeah, when they were porting the game for the Eternal version, initially this game did not have a charge shot for the fireball. You just had your regular fireball shot, and then you, as you leveled up, your fireball would gain extra abilities. When they made Eternal, they decided, oh yeah, let's just give the fireball some extra stuff, so they give you the ability to shoot charge shots. And to compensate for that, they changed around a lot of the damage values, so that you would do more damage to... So the bosses would take less damage from uncharged shots and more damage to charged shots. But then when they were... yeah, so you saw that right there, putting me down to 39 HP, and I forgot to save. That's why those enemies are really scary. That was what I was talking about when I was saying that the fire can just kind of instant-kill you if it wants to.
Yeah, the flame breath attack is kind of erratic. Hard to dodge.
Yeah. Oh, but as I was saying, when they were porting over the damage values for when they got to Drugar, I guess they just forgot to change it. So he actually takes max damage from regular fire shots, and so you don't have to worry about using charge shots on him. Which is quite handy.
Yep, only boss in the game that works that way, so it's almost definitely a glitch, but hey, I won't complain.
Yeah, fighting Drugar without, or if you had to use charge shots, is not a very fun experience. Because when I first started looking into learning this game, I didn't know that. So the boss fight took a lot longer. And then I was complaining about it in the Discord one day, and then Korzic's like, hey, you know, it takes normal damage from shots, right? And I was like, wait, what?
I don't even remember how the heck I learned that. It might have been through, like, trying a task time attack. Yeah, it's very convenient, though, because you can shoot off your uncharged shots a lot faster than you can your charged shots.
I'm about to take a fireball. Okay, good. I thought I was going to take a fire breath to the face again. Whoops, I reset the room quicker than I thought I was going to.
So here is the battle armor. I picked up the battle shield a couple minutes ago, and that, along with the battle sword, is going to make the next boss a a lot safer. Technically, it would be faster to just get the sword and completely skip the armor, but trying to do that for, well, the remainder of the bosses actually is probably not gonna end very well for you, because the bosses tend to be bullet hell of sorts, and that will be very apparent for the next boss.
Yeah, just in case you, if you didn't think Ys was anime enough, it is going to shortly turn into Toho. So I should be good on. I'm gonna kill this just in case.
We are also going to pick up this Falcon idol here. It's just like the idol we already have that lets us charge our fireballs and home them in. This one, it's basically the same thing, except that when our fireballs collide with something, they will fracture off into multiple small fireballs, which are also homing. And because there are multiple enemies to deal with in the next boss fight, it makes for great crowd control.
It's almost like it was planned that way or something. Alright, so I'm here at Drugar now.
Nope, not taking that.
One thing worth noting about this boss is that his antenna have detectable hitboxes. So you'll see sometimes my shots will actually hit the antenna instead of him. One nice thing about that is that as you continue to hit the antenna, they will actually break, which means it will be easier to hit him afterward. The issue is that it makes actually killing him initially a lot slower.
You know, I've never figured out what the antenna are for. Like, I thought maybe it would change the trajectory of his blue projectiles that already kind of curve towards you, but I don't think that's actually the case.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are just there to eat Hawk Idol shots.
Yeah, another thing you could do is unequip the Hawk Idol, but the Hawk Idol's still handy because you can only damage that boss from below, so you need to lure him to the top of the screen constantly.
Yeah, you can see both of us were doing some MLG skill shots there to get shots into him without being directly in front of him.
So this grinding session's almost done. I want to be at level 45 for... You can do the boss at level 4. It's a little bit more difficult. I don't know if it's faster or not. Might be. But level 45 is obviously going to be a little bit safer.
Yeah, the jury is still out on if it's faster or not. Optimally it might be, but it also makes the fight a lot scarier to do it that way, so... Also, I took a hit from that enemy, and I really was not expecting to, and that might make the grind scary. It'll be fine.
Yeah, this boss and the next one are the main reason that we pick up herbs throughout the course of the run, because as you can see, there are a lot of projectiles in this fight, and we need to kill the bats because we do not have the ability to damage the boss itself until we kill 9 of these bats, I think it is.
Yes. 2, 3, 4, so yeah, 9.
Yes, this boss is very erratic. So I think you can see how doing this boss without armor could be a bit of a problem.
It's a little bit sketchy.
It is doable, but yeah. Because of the way the idol, because of the way the fireballs kind of bat the enemies around the room, no pun intended,
But
it makes the fight pretty hard to replicate.
Yeah.
Now we can finally attack Zaba, and at this point the fight becomes much easier. So here we have this good sequence where we are trying to save the fiance of the guy that broke into the shrine. So obviously he failed in his quest, so it is up to us now.
Yeah, if you walk around some of the areas in the subterranean canal, you'll actually find that he's been turned to stone.
Yep, just like the rest of the runaways.
That was bizarre. So fun fact, this grind has some sort of vendetta against me every time I do it. Where just the weirdest things will happen.
Are you doing the Drugar grind?
No, I'm doing the Zaba grind.
Oh, yes. Yeah, those enemies pretty powerful, even with the right equipment. Did her fiance die? Spoilers, but no, she does not. We are led to believe that she does because of that cutscene there with Dallas, but she is indeed alive and well. So if I were to go back to the bottom of the tower now, you would find her sprite collapsed on the ground. But we will be coming back here later on, and at that point you find that her body is gone mysteriously.
Obviously, it was Dallas's cleanup crew, right? I mean, you can't just leave a body laying around. That's unsanitary.
Yeah, it might frighten the other sacrifices.
Exactly.
So after that cutscene, we were able to get the item in the bell tower, which was previously sealed off. That is one of the things we need to undo the petrification on the runaways. And the other thing we need is the Black Pearl, which last we knew was in Tarf's possession. So let's go grab it from him.
And in case you didn't already dislike Tarf,
Yeah, so it turns out that Tarf followed us to Ramia village, and he somehow dropped the pearl on his way here, because there is a hole in his pocket. Yeah.
and so now the pearl's back in enemy hands. Luckily, Dallas is incompetent, and so he hides the pearl in the meeting room from earlier. Like in
Yeah,
plain
so
sight.
if you talk to the human guard of Solomon Shrine, yeah, there was a stranger walking around town. I think he picked up a pebble off the ground. And then the demon guards basically confirmed that, yeah, Dallas brought in something that ended the meeting, and that something is the Black Pearl, and yeah, the meeting is ended, but like an idiot, Dallas just leaves the Black Pearl in plain sight, just begging for us to collect it. So, is Dallas really a villain, or is he a hero in disguise?
Not all heroes wear capes. Sometimes they wear creepy-looking black cloaks.
So now we get the pleasure of climbing the bell tower again. It sucks, but not much you can do about it.
Yeah, this game really likes making you climb unnecessarily large towers. Captain Jack Sparrow does not appreciate that. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, again, I think both of us are now climbing the tower, so the most exciting content is currently happening.
Indeed. Yeah, he's the fascination with towers. I think you're right.
But the towers, well, the Darm Tower is a good dungeon. This is just kind of an obnoxious area that you have to climb more than you probably need to. It's to build suspense.
Okay.
Best East game to start with is either 1 for Celceta. Or 7 is a pretty good one. I personally started with 1 after having seen Celceta played. Yeah, don't start with 2 though, because you won't understand what's going on if you haven't played 1.
Yeah, as long as you play 2 right after 1, then you can pretty much play the games in any order.
Yeah.
Personally, I suggest release order because that way you get to an ever-evolving combat system, and it's easier to appreciate the games rather than starting with, say, East Origin right off the bat, and trying to go back to 1 and 2.
I was going to say, if you want to play chronological order, you'll be in for a bit of a roller coaster, because that's Origin 1, 2, Celceta, Felghana, and then I believe it's... I believe after Felghana, it's 5, 8, 6, 7.
The thing about East 1 and 2 is the combat system. It's either something you love or you hate, so people are reluctant to recommend that to new players because it is divisive.
Yeah.
Obviously, we love it, but not everyone feels that way. I mean, in East 1 at least, you can pretty much play the whole game with one hand, which I personally love.
That is very true. If I was not using a controller, I would definitely be more or less playing this game one-handed. Because you don't really need... Or playing East one-handed. This one you actually have to use... You have to mash the X button a lot if you're playing on a PS4 controller. Yeah, actually I would recommend playing Origin after 1 and 2. Because like it's being said in chat, there are a lot of references to 1 and 2 that are made that if you haven't played 1 or 2, you're just kind of like, whatever. And I think there's actually 1 or 2 puzzles that are basically dependent on you knowing what happens in East 1 to kind of understand how the puzzle works. And yeah, all the games are very independent of each other other than 1, 2, and Origin, so...
Yeah, there is the occasional reference to other games here and there, but those are just references. It's not going to make or break the experience for you.
Mostly the add-all should never be allowed around ships, ever.
I mean, hey, he got to the continent or kingdom of E7, okay, on a boat.
That is true. Though the entire time Dogi's talking about how bad things are going to happen. And I mean, he's not entirely wrong. A lot of bad things happen in E7, just none of them involve boats.
So, now that we're finally able to defeat him, Syria, we did pick up the best sword from someone that you could have come across earlier, but as Freedom Pulse mentioned, he would have been a statue. So yet another reason to undo the petrification curse to get that sword.
Yeah.
So that is the only way we can damage the final bosses.
Yeah, like it's being said, 1, 2, and Origin are the only ones that deal directly with the Kingdom of Ys. However, 4 and 6 are connected with the same group of people that Fina and Rhea are. And there's a character from 6 that shows up in 7. So yeah, now I'm climbing the tower again. Well, I imagine you're probably close to Dallas.
Yep, working my way on him as we speak. And Dallas is the other to try to save your Earth, because once you find the Claria sword, if you report the good news that his son is alive to Hadat, the guy that gave you the Lila shell. Oh shoot. If you want to, you can report that and receive a good piece of armor, which will help a lot for this fight. Unfortunately, that does mean having to sit through a cutscene, and, well, who wants to do that? So without armor, the boss, he does do a good chunk of damage to you, so you really do need to play him safe, but even then, there's a decent chance that he will kill you. So someone asked about Maria earlier, whether or not she survives. There she was. What happened was she was wearing a bracelet that belonged to one of the 6 priests, and the killing blow that was meant for her was absorbed by that bracelet. So it caused her to pass out instead, but she is still safe and sound.
They always do that. They always go this wrong way every time. My navigation of this section in the canal of going to get the Claria sword is always a little wonky.
Yeah, the canal, it's bad enough even before you drain it, but once you drain it of water, it becomes even more convoluted, so they are all interconnected. So you can imagine how confused it would be.
What's my skip split? There we go. I just realized I forgot. I'm keeping track of my own splits just for funsies, and I forgot to split something, so I was like, how am I this far behind already? Now I go to, where do I head up? Oh yes, the final boss from Felghana is indeed and the legendary hero is a member. I didn't mean to talk to this guy twice. The legendary hero it talks about is a member of the same group that Fina, Rhea, and Eldil are. And the final boss is also created by something in Nepishtim.
Yeah, basically when Nepishtim was released, the game Nepishtim, I mean, it expanded the lore of the E series a lot, and so any games after that to basically make the lore from Nepishtim fit into that.
Yeah, 6 is after 8. It's Origin 1, 2, 4, 3, 5, 8, 6, 7. And then 9 is after 7, I believe. From what I've heard.
So, coming up to the final boss here, time will be once I deal the final hit. This boss is pretty easy, because right after Dallas you find the shield magic, which, as its name implies, shields you from all attacks. The downside is that when you use it, it drains your MP rather quickly. Even more so if an attack manages to hit you with it active. So even with that, the boss is super easy, because it's like having 2 life bars, your MP being depleted first, and then your HP. And on top of that, you are allowed to use items during a boss fight, unlike in East 1. So if you grab a Salsetta flower, which restores all your HP and MP, or an elixir, you essentially have 4 life bars to defeat this guy. So
Also, shout-outs to Dallas's boss fight music. It's called Overdrive, and it is amazing. As is a lot of the other songs in this game, but Overdrive is super good.
I think Termination's my favorite.
Termination is the Darm fight?
Yep.
Okay. That one's really good as well.
Oh, shoot.
Oops.
I did run out of MP there, but I did have True Berries as backup. And that's time.
Nice.
True Berries do restore a small bit of MP. And like I said, Shield Magic just goes through your MP like butter.
Yeah. GG Korzic.
Thank you. So even on Nightmare, the final boss is kind of disappointing just due to how overpowered Shield Magic is.
Ooh, that's a sketchy meteor pattern. It's fine. It's fine. We're fine. Yeah, so with this boss, again, invincibility frames aren't really a thing in this game. So meteors can just kind of hit you a million times. And meteors do about 17 damage with our current equipment loadout on level 47. So, yeah, they do what just happened to me. I'm actually just going to straight up load my save because I have 1 hit left.
Thanks for the GGs, everybody.
Yeah, super GG, Korzic. That was a really good run.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, you could have another armor before Dallas to make that fight really simple. Even before Darm, you can see in the cutscene right here, Luda Gemma has the Claria shield, which you could get for the final boss, but because of how ridiculous shield magic is, on easy difficulty, you just don't need it.
Oops. That meteor spawned right on top of me. Don't really appreciate that game.
Yeah, so apparently the meteors in the Dallas fights, he has them circling around him as kind of a guard, so you need to weave between them, and once you deal a hit to him, then he sends them after you to avoid being hurt more. And as far as we can tell, it's random which direction they'll shoot off in, and they can cause problems for you.
Yeah, they fly off in random directions and home in on you, and so sometimes you can, yeah, just get stun locked for 70, 80 damage at times. It's a party. Okay, so I should have him down in 1 more cycle. Great. That's Dallas down, so now I just have to go and do all this stuff before Darm.
So you're still making pretty good time then.
Oh yeah, this is going to be probably a 160.
Not bad at all.
Yeah. Shut up, Tarf. He has to get 1 more insult in. He's like, hi, I exist still, and I'm like, no, why? Why do you exist? Again, so you saw when Korzic was doing this, you like go into like a teleporter right before the fight with Darm. That would be when the minute-long cutscene plays, showing all of the descendants of the 6 sages kind of teaming up or whatever. And yeah, it's a minute-long cutscene, which is already ridiculous, but Tarf is in like that entire cutscene, so...
Yeah, that would be the quote-unquote New Game Plus cutscenes we mentioned at the beginning of the run. There's that one. There is a brief one after you rescue the runaways once you get the golden pendant from them.
And then
there's
one
one...
immediately when you start the game.
Yeah. One that basically spoils who the goddesses are right off the bat.
So see, we cut out the cutscenes for you, the viewers, so you could be in suspense when you see that for some reason Fina and Ray are on pedestals. Also, I always imagine, because, like, Govan throws that harmonica, like, hard enough that it has after images. Like, if Adol were to not catch that thing, it would probably take his head off, and that would be a very dramatic and anticlimactic end to the East series as we know it.
Never thought about that.
I think about it literally every time I see that harmonica go flying. Like, it's a good thing he catches that.
Maybe he just has shield magic when he catches it, so it doesn't do any damage to him.
Yeah, right. It just, like, bounces off of him.
Yeah, speaking of the silver harmonica, you're probably seeing on Freedom Pulse's stream that there is a tune that Adol plays to undo the curse on the goddesses. For whatever reason, that tune seems to be glitched in this version of the game. Ironically, the only way I've ever heard that tune play correctly is by doing glitches that we did not show off for this marathon. And that somehow causes the tune to actually play as it should. I don't get it.
So I'm going to be a little quiet as I focus on killing Darm quickly. This fight's interesting. Having the goddesses... I don't remember if you mentioned the goddesses ring or not.
I don't think I did, no.
But you notice that during this fight, there's periods of time where these like red rings show up around Darm and he stops moving. That is a effect of the goddesses ring. It allows us to hit him a lot more. However, sometimes you can see I'm kind of hitting him out of bounds right now. He can actually get put into that stun state while he is out of bounds, and it will completely waste the stun state in about 10 seconds. So that's always unfortunate when it happens. Luckily, this is actually not too bad of a fight, I say as he proceeds to spam me with the machine gun bullets.
Yeah, so what Freedom Pulse was talking about with the goddesses ring, in the first phase you are unlikely to be unable to hit him. In the second phase he is squeamish and he loves to...
Get ready, by the way, for time.
Likes to maneuver to the center of the screen where you can't hit him for the second phase of the fight. Which obviously you don't want to have happen.
I actually am gonna die, maybe, because I don't have healing. So, this is scary now. I just died. So I just saved at Dallas. Wait, I think I have a... I do. Okay, we're good. Never mind. We're good.
Sucks.
We are good. I have a backup save. We're good. False alarm, everyone.
Banned from the marathon.
Yeah, right. So, also, that's never happened before. I've never died to Tarm.
I wish I could say the same.
At least, like, I've died to him, like, once in my casual playthrough, and since then I've literally never died to Darm. So, that's a new experience.
What probably happened to him was that he took so much damage from the shield magic that it just went from his MP bar, and once that's out, it goes to your HP.
Yeah, again,
So
the laser, like, just drains through your HP super fast, and MP super fast. So, yeah, that happens occasionally. The good news
Yeah.
is, though, in this file I have a Rotafruit, so I can get all of my MP back.
Yeah, that's something everyone says during the marathon. That's never happened before.
That's happened to me twice this run. And he
Yeah, good.
froze off stream, so this is unfortunately going to go over estimate. I apologize.
On the plus side, you get to hear the amazing final boss scene.
And that's time.
Oh,
やれやれだぜ。
GG.
Thanks. So yeah, 1:20:08 according to my timer.
Only 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Only 8 seconds, plus we both killed the estimate for East 1, so it evened out. So yeah, that's East 2. It's very fun. It's both games are awesome speed games. I enjoy them a lot. I would definitely recommend it if any of you want to learn the games or get part of the community. We do have a Discord that's fairly active with a lot of people that are willing to help out. Thank you for the GGs, everyone. So I know we're a little behind. Do you want me to run the ending, or do you want to call it there? And I'll wait for a little bit of confirmation on that.
Do you have cutscenes enabled?
I do have cutscenes enabled.
Okay, I do not. So it just skipped that for me.
Yeah, I'm just waiting to progress the text box, because if I do, then it will set the New Game Plus state, so I'll just have to change that later, but...
Yeah,
Yes,
so if anyone's interested in running this game, like Freedom Pulse said, we do have a Discord. We welcome you to join that.
Yes, I believe
we-
Schuldenheim just posted the link to it as well, so... if you're
We do
interested-
have weekly races of East 1, sometimes East 2. East 2, there's not nearly as many runners as there is for East 1, but we would definitely welcome more.
Yes, for sure, absolutely. The more the merrier. Absolutely, it'd be awesome to see a lot of people join and help push the time down for this game.
Indeed.
Yeah, so I haven't heard anything one way or the other for whether or not to continue, so... Yeah, again, thank you so much again. I've been Freedom Pulse.
Korzic, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
And be sure to stick around for the next game, which looks like it is Half Minute Hero, played by Dowolf.